All right, stop. Shuffle up and listen. Loot's on board with a brand new mission. Drawing deep, yeah. Got a game tonight. Gonna find my combo in this fight. Breaches in play, escapes online. Drop LED, crack it real fast. Brain freeze loops, filling my yard. Gonna escape them all. Oracle in sight, library's gone. GG, y'all. Loot Pathfinder Deck Tech coming right up. Welcome to Wizards Whimsy. I'm your host, Patrick. Sorry about that intro. I just could not help myself. I do apologize, and if the cats are going crazy wherever you're watching this at, I do apologize immensely for that. You know, sometimes you just got to have fun with whatever you're doing. In my last video where I went over Aetherdrift, the legendary creatures, someone suggested that I build Loot the Pathfinder as a CEDH deck. Now, I did break one of my own rules by using cards that I do not own myself to build this deck, so forgive me on that. But I think it is a fun build. Might have went a little combo heavy in it, but I do have a good explanation for all the combos that are in it and how they actually work. So, let's go ahead and get into that with, going over our commander first. Our commander is Loot the Pathfinder. He is a 5-drop, 2 generic, green, blue, red. He is a legendary creature, Beast Noble. He is a 2/4. He has double strike, vigilance, and haste. He has 3 exhaust abilities. Now, exhaust abilities you can only activate once. So each of these abilities we can only activate once unless we somehow reset Loot the Pathfinder. Now, the first one is we pay a green tap, add 3 mana of any one color, or we can pay a blue tap, draw 3 cards, or we can pay a red tap, Loot deals 3 damage to any target. So as long as we have a way to create infinite mana, we will be able to cast Loot the Pathfinder over and over again. Let's go and take a look at some of the card draw that is in this deck. First up, we have Fairy Mastermind. Fairy Mastermind is a 2-drop, 1 generic, a blue. It is a 2/1 Fairy Rogue, has flying and flash. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. You can pay 4 and each player draws a card. What's good about this card is that when our opponents are drawing their second cards of each of their turns, so if it's your turn, you've drawn your card, you're casting some spells, and they start to try to filter through their deck and try to draw, and they end up drawing 2 cards, you get to draw another card. And then whenever you pass the turn, if the next opponent draws 2 cards, you're drawing a card. So it's one way that we can, get any cards back into our hands that we need if we're trying to fill up, if we're needing counter spells, or to help get to our combo pieces faster. And of course, if you're in blue, there's no reason that you're not going to run Rhystic Study. It is a 3-drop enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. That may draw a card is very important, because if you're comboing out and you have no cards in your library and an opponent casts a spell and they don't pay for it, it does not force you to draw. So that is something that is very key, and that is something that we're looking for on our draw cards, especially our permanents, that we want to make sure that it is a May ability. Myth Unbound is a 3-drop enchantment. It is 2 generic and a green. Your commander costs 1 less to cast for each time it's been cast from the command zone this game. Whenever your commander is put into the command zone from anywhere, draw a card. Now, one thing to remember is that if an opponent exiles your commander and you have an ability on the stack, you can choose not to put it in the command zone. You can let it go to exile, especially if you're trying to win the game at that point, because if your library is empty and so you have a Thoracle trigger on the stack, you do not want to be forced to draw a card with an empty library. So if someone exiles your commander with this out on the field, you can let it be an exile, especially if you are winning at that moment. Of course, we also have Mystic Remora. It's probably one of the best 1-drop enchantments that you can have in blue. It has a cumulative upkeep of 1, so that means each turn after you play it, At the beginning of your upkeep, you have to pay 1 mana. Then the next upkeep, you'll be paying 2 mana, and so on and so forth. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. That player may pay 4 to counter this effect. A lot of times, especially in CEDH, no one is paying the 4, especially if you drop this in the early game. Sylvan Library is a 2-drop enchantment, 1 generic and a green, and is at the beginning of your upkeep. You may draw 2 additional cards, and for each of those cards that you choose to keep, you pay 4 life. Otherwise, put them back on the library in any order. If we are running wheel effects, we do have Wheel of Fortune. It is a 3-drop, 2 generic and a red. All players discard their hands and draw 7 new cards. So this will actually help us out in digging for our combo pieces. It'll also put cards in our graveyard for, our breach lines. So this is one of the main reasons that we're running this in the deck. Now, this is a combo piece as well. Staff of Domination is a 3-drop artifact. It has 5 abilities. You pay 1, untap Staff of Domination. You can pay 2 and tap Staff of Domination to gain 1 life. You can pay 3, tap Staff of Domination to untap target creature. You can pay 4 and tap to tap target creature, or you can pay 5 to tap and draw a card. Now, the modes that we'll be using and that we'll be focusing on is going to be untapping Staff of Domination, untapping a creature, and drawing a card. Now, this is not really a card draw, but it does give us access to more cards. It is Jessica's Will. It is a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red. Choose one. If you control your commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both. You can add 1 red mana for each card in target opponent's hand, or exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. One key thing to remember, that if you cast this, you want to make sure that you have not played land for turn. That way you can actually play it from one of the cards that are exiled if it happens to be a land. So one of the key artifacts that we will be using to generate infinite mana is Umbral Mantle. It is a 3-drop artifact equipment. Equipped creature has pay 3, untap. This creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It is a equip 0. A lot of people do recognize this creature. This is Savala, Heart of the Wild. She is a 3-drop, 1 generic and 2 green. She is a 2/3 legendary creature, Elf Scout. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. You can pay a green, tap, and add X mana in any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Now, we do have to be able to activate a couple of times with Umbral Mantle, and then she'll start generating her own mana off of Umbral Mantle. So that's one thing to keep, make sure that you have enough mana, because if you play her and you equip Umbral Mantle, you'll have to pay a green. You'll tap to add whatever the greatest power among creatures you control is, which I believe in this deck right now is a 3 total, so you could add 3 mana. You will have to pay 3 mana to untap. That will give her +2/+2, making her a 4/5. You'll then have to pay a green mana to tap and add, and after that, she'll start generating infinite mana off of her own power. This is a new creature that can actually create infinite mana with Umbral Mantle, and it is Redshift Rocketeer Chief. He is a 2-drop, a red and a green, legendary creature, Goblin Pilot. He is a 2/3. He has Vigilance, and he has Tap. Add X mana of any one color where X is Redshift's power. Spend this mana only to activate abilities. So there is the downside that you can only activate abilities with this mana, but you can generate infinite mana. And now I'm going to show you how you can convert that infinite mana you created from them into usable mana to cast other spells. What you'll need is this artifact. It is Urn of Godfire. It is a 1-drop artifact. You pay 2 to activate. Add it 1 mana of any one color. So every 2 mana that you spend, you get 1 mana of any color. Of course, you can also pay 6, tap and sacrifice Urn of Godfire, destroy target creature or enchantment. But this is one way that we can filter that you can only use this to activate abilities to actually usable mana to cast other spells. Of course, we can also use that infinite mana to activate our Staff of Domination, to activate Savala, to activate our commander, any of the exhaust abilities. Any ability that we have to pay a cost into, we can use that mana to activate that source. But if we need it to cast a spell, we'll need something like Urn of Godfire. Kennen Bonder Prodigy is a 2-drop. He is a blue and a green. He is a 2/2 legendary creature human druid. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. He also has pay 7, 5 generic, a blue and a green. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, he's in here because, again, with our creatures creating that mana, they can create an additional one so that we actually get a chance to start activating or continue activating until we have enough power to generate infinite mana off of Umbral Mantle. But it also gives us the ability to generate infinite mana off of Basalt Monolith. Now, Basalt Monolith is a 3-drop artifact. Basalt Monolith does not untap during your untap step. You tap it and add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool, and you pay 3 to untap Basalt Monolith. So with Kennen out, whenever we tap Basalt Monolith, we will get 4 mana, and we only have to spend 3 of it to untap, so we'll net a mana each time. Of course, if we're just generating colorless mana, we can actually filter it through Urn of Godfire to have colored mana. So that is how these cards will actually work together and interact together. Now, one of the ways that we have to be able to cast our commander over and over again, we do have a food chain line. Well, actually, it's 3 food chain lines. But first up, we have to have food chain, which is a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a green enchantment. It's exile a creature you control, add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exile creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. So as we're exiling a creature, we get to add mana equal to its mana cost or its mana value, and it can only be of 1 color. So we are running 3 creatures that this goes with that can generate us infinite mana. First, we have Squee the Immortal. He's a 3-drop, 1 generic, and 2 red. He is a 2/1 legendary creature goblin. You may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. So we exile him with Food Chain. We'll get 4 mana. It'll be red at first so that we can build up an infinite red, because we get to continue to cast him over and over from exile, and we'll generate an additional red mana. Once we've created that loop and shown that loop, we can let our opponents know that now we will be generating the other colors of our commander, which will be blue and green, so that they have an understanding that we pretty much have infinite mana that we can use to cast creatures. Eternal Scourge is a 3-drop, 3/3 Eldrazi Horror. You may cast Eternal Scourge from exile. When Eternal Scourge becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, exile Eternal Scourge. So we want to make sure we have Food Chain out and that we have the 3 mana available to cast him. Because as soon as we cast him, we'll exile him, so that at no point does our opponents have a chance to target him to exile. Because when we exile with Food Chain, part of the cost of activating Food Chain is exiling the creature, so they won't have a chance to target it. The final creature we have in the Food Chain infinite mana line is Misthollow Griffin. It is a 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 blue creature griffin. Flying, you may cast Misthollow Griffin from exile. It is a 3/3. So we can actually swing in, smack our opponents for 3, and then start our loops if we need to at that point. And again, we'll be exiling and then recasting. We'll start off with exiling for 5 blue mana, since this is a 4 cost. And then we'll just continue that over and over to show, again, that we have a repeatable loop and that we can generate infinite mana. We're running 7 tutors in this deck. Worldly Tutor is the first one. It is a green instant. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. So we want to make sure that we're doing this at an opponent's end step. We do not want to do this during our turn unless it is at upkeep before we actually draw a card. Imperial Recruiter is a 3-drop, 2 generic and a red creature, human advisor 1/1. When Imperial Recruiter enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Most of our creatures are going to have power 2 or less. We're using those creatures for their abilities, and that is the main thing that we're focusing on, because we actually want to combo out with our commander or go into a Thassa's Oracle combo, which we will get into in a little bit. We have Fabricate. It is a 3-drop, 2 generic and a blue. It is a sorcery. It is search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is a way that we can get any one of our artifact cards, so that if we're ready to combo off and we need one of our artifacts to be able to do that, we can get it into our hand and then play it. Moonsilver Key is a 2-drop artifact. It has pay 1, tap, sacrifice Moonsilver Key, search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Most of our artifacts do have mana abilities. They are some form of mana rock, so we should be able to get any one of them that we need. Spellseeker is a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a blue 1/1 human wizard. When Spellseeker enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorcery card with mana value 2 or less. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. A lot of times with Spellseeker, we'll actually be going and getting one of our other tutors, especially like Mystical Tutor, if there's a specific thing that we need to tutor as far as our instants and sorceries that cost more than 2 mana. And Mystical Tutor is a 1-drop blue. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top of your library. So again, this is a way that we can go get one of our other tutors, or maybe we need to actually go get our wheel or something like that, so that we can, actually try to win the game on our next turn or after this upkeep, depending on when we actually go and cast Mystical Tutor. We're also running Gamble, which is a 1-drop red. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, then shuffle. Our final tutor is Chord of Calling. It is X and 3 green mana. It has Convoke. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So what's great about this is that once you cast this and it resolves, whatever creature you're going to get, it goes directly onto the battlefield and into play. So there's no time for your opponent to actually interact with that. And Convoke means that we get to actually use our own creatures to actually help pay the cost to go get whatever creature we are trying to put onto the battlefield. The main win condition for this deck is Thassa's Oracle. Thassa's Oracle is a 2-drop, 2 blue mana, Merfolk Wizard 1/3. When Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. So this is one of the main win cons that we see in blue decks. It is very hard to deal with, because once Thassa's Oracle hits the battlefield, that trigger does go onto the stack. Now, one of the ways that we have to empty out our library to actually make sure we have nothing in our library whenever Thassa's trigger resolves is Hermit Druid. It is a 2-drop, 1 generic and a green 1/1. It has pay a green, tap. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a basic land card. Put that card into your hand. We do not have a basic land in this deck, So if we actually use this and pull it off, we will empty our library. So hopefully we're actually winning whenever this happens. Hopefully someone is not stifling Thassa's trigger. Another way we have to empty our library is Thrasios Triton Hero. He is a 2-drop, a green and a blue 1/3 Merfolk Wizard. He has pay 4, scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, otherwise draw a card. So if we're creating infinite mana, we can pump it into this with Thassa's trigger on the stack and actually get all of our lands onto our battlefield and the rest of the cards in the library into our hand. The main way that we're going to be getting our library empty is with the Lion's Eye Diamond, which is a 0-drop artifact. Sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond, discard your hand, add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. You play this ability as a mana source. Well, we want to make sure that we have Underworld Breach in play whenever we play that and crack it, because Underworld Breach is a 2-drop red enchantment, 1 and a red. It is each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from the graveyard. At the beginning of your end step, we will sacrifice Underworld Breach. So with Breach in play, we crack Lion's Eye Diamond, we pitch our hand to the graveyard, we have 3 mana floating, and we can actually start playing cards like Lion's Eye Diamond by exiling 3 cards and then playing it, cracking it, and that way we can generate a pseudo infinite mana. And then we want to play Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze is an instant. It is 1 generic and a blue. Target player mills 3 cards. It has Storm, so for each spell that's been cast before it this turn, you copy this spell that many times. So we will target ourselves so that we can put more cards into our graveyard, and then we actually get a chance to cast more copies of Lion's Eye Diamond, to cast Brain Freeze, to cast Thassa's Oracle, or any of our other mana generators, so that we can go infinite mana for whatever ability we're actually trying to do, or for however we're trying to cast. Thanks for checking out this video. So I just kind of went over the main cards of the deck and how they're utilized and how they can help us get to the win. So I didn't go over every card, but I do have that deck list in the description below, so go ahead and check that out. And while you're there, you can also check out some links to Magic products on Amazon. I am an associate of Amazon, so anytime you utilize any of those links to make purchases, I do get a small commission off of it at no cost to you. So go ahead and check those out while you're looking at that. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe button, and leave a comment on what you thought of this video, what you'd like to see next. I do have plans for the next video. We did have our dual commander at the local game store that I play at. That tournament was a fun little tournament. It was kind of small, but still great. But the winner of the tournament actually sent me their deck list and asked if I could actually do a deck tech over it. So I'm going to give that a shot, even though that is not a commander that I've ever used. He did let me know what his win lines were, so I'll actually go over that in the next video. So that video will be over Angus McKenzie. That's right, a fall commander. So a Pillow Fort commander, took the tournament, went undefeated. Pretty amazing. And there were some very spicy decks in that tournament altogether. So hopefully with the next tournament, we'll actually have a bigger turnout, and I can actually give you game footage of the final round. So keep looking out for that. And like I said, go ahead and leave me a comment, and maybe the next deck tech I do or the next video I talk about is something that you suggested. Because after all, I am putting this content out to help the Magic community, to inform the Magic community, or to inspire anyone in the Magic community, especially with deck building. I do like to build fun, janky decks. I really do enjoy using the off-meta commanders, especially in tournament play. So that is something that if that's what you're into, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. And until next time, keep slinging those spells.